My truck broke down in Florida last week, and I honestly thought my trucking business was going to end right there. My driver drove from Pennsylvania to Florida, went to sleep on Wednesday night, woke up, tried to start the truck, nothing happened. He couldn't put the clutch down to the floor, the truck would not start. Long story short, I spent $6,000 just to get my clutch replaced. My driver was stranded in Florida for 5 days. We lost a ton of money on revenue. We spent a ton of money getting the truck fixed, and I honestly thought that was the end of my trucking business.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and
I've been running my truck now for 4 weeks. As you all know, I had a box truck for the past year, and I recently added a semi-truck, a CDL tractor, and I've been running it for 4 weeks. I want to take this time, this opportunity, to share with you all actual numbers, how much money I've made, how much money I've spent for 4 full weeks of operation. I talk all the time about how important it is to plan your cost per mile. You need to plan before you even start. You need to know how much money you need to make in order to be profitable. And the only way to figure that out is to know how much money you're going to spend to run your truck. Those numbers are all great, but they're mostly theoretical. We don't really know how much we're going to spend on tolls, maintenance. We don't really know how many miles we're going to drive. So largely, the cost per mile calculations are an educated guess. Now that we've been running for 4 weeks, we have some real hard data, some solid numbers that we can deep dive into and find out, is this truck profitable? Do we need to change anything? Do we need to request a higher rate per mile from the brokers? What do we need to change? What do we need to sustain to make money? Your profit and loss on your QuickBooks will be a good representation of cash coming in and coming out of your business for your profit and loss, but it's not always 100% accurate. And I'll tell you why. Because sometimes you pay for your fuel next week. Sometimes you pay your driver in 2 weeks. Sometimes your invoices, your accounts receivable aren't necessarily collected in the same week that they're actually delivered. So we have 3 things going on here. We have our cost per mile calculations, we have our QuickBooks profit and loss. What I'm going to talk about today, actual expenses in real time, comparing week to week with the work that was completed that week, calculating that revenue, and then also subtracting from that expenses that actually occurred in that week. So I'm not going off of my profit and loss from QuickBooks. I'm not going off of my cost per mile calculations. I'm looking how much money did I actually spend on fuel? How much revenue did I actually pull in? What did I actually spend on tolls and maintenance? I want to see if this truck can actually bring in $1,000, $2,000 a week like I planned. I will be the first one to tell you that this trucking business is not always rainbows and butterflies. It's not always smooth sailing. There's a lot of things, a lot of variables that go into this trucking business. I'm going to try to show you guys the numbers on the screen while I talk about them. That way they make sense to you. But we're going to talk about the very first week that I ran loads. I think I only drove for like 3 or 4 days on the first week. So I'll put the numbers up on the screen and I'll briefly go through how much money I made, how much money I spent in the very first week. I think we did 3 loads. Little over $3,000, 1,800 miles were driven. Fuel, I can't believe it, was cheap, $4.20 a gallon. The cost of my truck and insurance, factoring, dispatch fees, none of those will change. With my staffing agency, I spend about $1 a mile on my driver. So after my revenue and my miles, I was actually in the hole on the first week by $1,300. And that is largely due to the fact that I only drove for half the week and I had some registration fees. As you can see on the screen, I paid for my heavy vehicle use tax, I paid some interest on a loan, and I had my iPad monthly payment of $40 come out, and I paid for some IFTA stickers. So that is my very first week in the hole, a little over $1,000 negative. Hopefully next week is better. Like I said, not always rainbows and butterflies. As you know, if you own trucks, there's a lot of repairs, a lot of maintenance that go into owning trucks. The second week of my operations, the second week of running this truck, I had a serious breakdown. And looking back on it, I will accredit this to the fact that I just bought this truck 2 weeks ago. It was probably sitting at the dealership for 6 months, so there were some wrinkles that needed to be ironed out. There were some kinks. I was hoping the truck would run smoothly for the first couple weeks, but I'm not surprised that some major breakdowns happen. So this week, let's look at the numbers. $8,000 revenue. I thought that was a good week. A little less than 3,000 miles driven. So my profit was just shy under negative $1,000. A negative $1,000 loss on the second week of operating my truck. But that is entirely due to the fact that my oil pan needed to be replaced. So I spent almost $2,000 on oil pan and labor, and then I spent $100 on oil because my driver had to take a taxi from where he broke down to the closest truck stop, get 5 gallons of oil, put in the truck just so he can make it to the truck stop. I got ripped off $162 on a taxi in the middle of nowhere. So this is my second week of running the truck. I had my first major breakdown. Luckily, my driver got it fixed in under 24 hours, so we didn't really miss any revenue, but we spent about $2,000 on maintenance and repairs. So because of that, instead of what I wanted to do, make $1,000 profit, I ended up negative $1,000 due to the fact that I spent $2,000 on maintenance. Finally, we are in our third week. We just got off of a major breakdown with the oil pan. And this is why we budget anywhere from 15 to 25 cents per mile in maintenance. You might have good weeks, you might have bad weeks. Last week, certainly a bad week with the oil pan, but this week, I'll put the numbers up on the screen. This was my first good week. Let's talk about how much money I made, how much money I spent. $11,000 in revenue, and this is just loads that were delivered Monday through Friday during this week. $11,000 worth of deliveries, just under 3,000 miles driven. And it was smooth sailing. I didn't have to pay for any tolls. The only thing I had to pay for, I think I spent $10 on zip ties. And like I said before, I'm using a staffing agency for my driver, so they do upcharge me 58%, but at least they found me a driver. I was really worried about finding a driver on my own, so I hired the staffing agency. They do charge a premium, but they take care of payroll tax, health insurance, workers' comp insurance, the drug and alcohol consortium. They do all of my compliance. And they do upcharge the premium, but they found me a driver, which I would not have been able to do on my own. So with all of those expenses, you can see on the screen, I made $4,000. So that completely wipes away the first 2 weeks of losses. And at this point, my truck is profitable. I'm happy as long as I can make, $1,000 to $2,000 a week. This truck will be a success, and hopefully I can get another truck in 1 to 2 months. So this was a great week, but keep in mind, this is just actual expenses. I would not look at this $4,000 profit and think, oh my goodness, I'm gonna make $4,000 every week, because you gotta plan for maintenance. Insurance and the truck payment are pretty constant. Fuel, I thought was relatively constant, but as you can see, it can fluctuate pretty significantly, but you always gotta budget for maintenance. 3 weeks into it, I'm feeling pretty good. At this point, I'm thinking, wow, I'm probably gonna buy another truck like tomorrow because this truck is unbelievable. I've already profited $2,000 in the first 3 weeks. If I sustain this, I'm gonna be buying new trucks every single day. But last week, I had a terrible breakdown. I've driven the truck probably close to 10,000 miles at this point, so I thought any wear and tear, any kinks, any wrinkles would have been resolved by now. But my clutch went out in the 4th week of driving the truck. As you know, a clutch is usually a major repair. I got pretty unlucky with the oil pan, and I was hoping I'd be good for a couple weeks, but I got hit with even a bigger bill on replacing the clutch. I'll throw the numbers up on the screen. I'm showing you guys these numbers, that way you can plan your next truck purchase. Maybe if you're running box trucks now, you're thinking about buying a tractor, you want to know how much money can I actually make with a tractor versus a box truck. Even with this terrible week, I'm still confident that my business is going to be profitable. My tractor will make money. There's no way I can continue having these major repairs. Maybe my truck will break down every week. I don't know. Let's look at the numbers. 2 things really killed me. One, obviously the major repair. I spent close to $5,000 on a clutch replacement. And the second thing that killed me was lost revenue. So you can see on the screen here, I only made $1,200 in revenue because I only delivered 1 load that week because my truck broke down in Florida before my driver could even deliver the second load for the week. My driver luckily he was at a truck stop, and he woke up on Wednesday morning, tried to start the truck. He couldn't even push the clutch all the way down. So we called a mobile mechanic. Right off the bat, they charged us $600 for a service fee, and then they tried to replace something with the clutch, maybe like the slave master. Not really sure what it's called. They thought that was the issue. $1,500 to fix that. They realized it still wasn't working, so they had to have another mechanic come out and look at it. They diagnosed it. They realized the clutch was completely broken, so I had to spend $600 for a tow. So $600 for the service fee, $600 for the tow, $1,500 to fix the slave master. We're already close to $3,000. By the time the truck got in the shop, they charged me an additional $3,000 to replace the clutch. All in all, $6,000 total over 3 days. We lost 3 days of shipping. I spent, I don't even know, probably a couple $100 on hotels and taxis for my driver. I paid him an additional $450 for a layover fee. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I paid him $150 each day as a layover fee because he was broken down in Florida. And then I paid to put him up in a hotel all week. I spent a lot of money to fix the clutch. I spent a lot of money to keep my driver happy. I was reluctant to do all that for my driver, but he's a really good driver. I want to make sure he's happy. I want to do everything I can to make sure he stays with my company because I'm a new company. I'm a young company. I don't have many options, so I'll do whatever I can to make sure he's happy. That way, you know, he works hard and he continues to do his job. You can see the number on the screen here, negative $9,000 in my 4th week of running my truck. So right off the bat, I'm like negative $6,000 or $7,000 in the first 4 weeks, primarily due to a major breakdown that hopefully will not happen on a regular basis. The one good thing about the oil pan repair you can see on the screen is that I got an $850 refund from the dealership where I bought the truck. So that was nice, at least. They refunded me for the oil pan because that was clearly missed when they did their inspection. But the revenue is there. I don't want this presentation to scare anybody away from getting a tractor trailer. A couple things I would recommend: obviously do your due diligence whenever you are inspecting the truck before you buy it. I'm probably gonna get a warranty on the next truck I buy. One really cool thing about getting a warranty is that the company will do a really thorough inspection of the truck. Any warranty company is going to want to make sure they check every single gear and wire and tube inside that truck to see if anything is going to break down. I think my clutch probably would have been covered had I gotten a warranty. So next time I buy a truck, definitely going to get a warranty. I'm also going to try to get as new of a truck as physically possible next time I buy a truck. I'm looking for like 2019, 2020, less than 400,000 miles, because you're going to lose money on downtime. You're going to make your drivers upset if your truck breaks down, and you're just going to spend a lot of money out of pocket to fix an old truck with 500,000 miles on it, 5 or 6 years old. So there's the first 4 weeks, negative $7,000. Today's Friday and I didn't show this week. Based on the numbers so far this week, I'm like close to positive $4,000, similar to how I was on the 3rd week. So with all of these weeks combined, including this week that I didn't talk about yet, I'm close to being back positive again. So one more good week next week, I should be positive. I will keep you all posted. I'll let you know. But if anybody is thinking about starting a trucking business and not driving, I highly recommend just get a semi truck, skip the box truck from the beginning. I think there's a lot more money to be made with semi trucks.